Hi there, Heidi here from the Nest Kids CPR and Allergy. Today's video is about that first allergy doctor appointment. So after your child has an allergic reaction to some kind of food, then they obviously need to go and see a doctor and to get checked out and see which food it is that they're allergic to and what the next steps are going to be. So it can be quite daunting. You can see your doctor privately, you can see the doctor publicly. It's always worth checking a waiting list for public hospitals because often it's the same doctors and maybe the waiting periods aren't quite as long as you think they're going to be. So what happens is that you'll go along to your allergy clinic and you'll first see the doctor, and the doctor will see you and they'll take a very comprehensive history about which foods they ate, where they were when they ate them, family history, if there's any eczema or asthma, all sorts of different questions just to define the history, because the history is a huge part of diagnosis. So then the other big part of diagnosis is skin prick testing. So once the doctor's spoken to you and they've decided exactly which foods they're going to test that day, it will be testing on the skin. So what we do is they'll write down on a piece of paper which ones they want the nurse or whoever's doing the skin prick testing to test. And then usually in the same vicinity, obviously on the same day, there's usually someone doing the skin prick testing. So you'll be handed over to them and there'll be skin prick testing done. It's normally done on this part of the arm. Or sometimes it can be done on the back, but not very often. Usually it's on the arm. If your child has really bad eczema skin, the doctor usually tries to kind of do the bare minimum but still trying to get the results that we need. So the skin prick testing will be done, and usually straight away after you've seen the doctor, and the nurse or whoever's doing the skin prick testing will draw usually a grid or at least number different parts on your arm, and then that will correlate to the number of the allergen that's on the piece of paper. They'll then pop some dots of allergen onto the arm and then give them a tiny little prick, just with what we're looking to do is just agitate the top layer of skin. And there's no needles used, there's no gouging, it normally doesn't bleed. Sometimes it does, but not very often. And then sometimes it's also done with a little blue twisty thing, which is just a different way of agitating the skin. So basically you're just looking to get a tiny bit of allergen just under the skin there. And then you sit for 15 minutes and wait for the results to come. So the results we're talking about is hives. So normally when there's something that you're allergic to, it will come up in a little bump. It normally looks quite red, and then you can see sort of a whitish bump in the middle. And after 15 to 20 minutes, the nurse will come out and read the skin test. So what they're going to do is look at every single individual bump where there is reactions, because some places may not have any reaction, and they'll measure them by millimeters. So the numbers you see written down are per millimeter. So you might see 3 by 3 or 10 by 10, and that means it's 3 millimeters by 3 millimeters or 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters. So then once you've got those results, the nurse will give them back to the doctor, and the doctor will call you back in, and then he'll give you advice on those results. So the advice could be one of many things. So it could be that actually they can't find that there's any skin testing and the history sounds a bit woolly and they're not really sure, so maybe they'll say, right, go home and try these foods again, or try this, and maybe they'll also tell you to avoid certain foods when there's the skin test, there's a certain size and the history points to that. They'll say avoid these foods. They might give you an EpiPen script, which will come with a red action plan as well. They might say, oh, we're not sure about this one, so we'd like you to come in for a food challenge. So you'd be brought in to have a food challenge, and because they're not sure that the child may react, may not, so it's best to do it under a supervision. So that's normally the three things. And then the other thing is like instructions of how to introduce at home, because sometimes there may be foods that they haven't actually introduced yet because you've got a young child. So they might give you instructions for that. At Sydney, we sometimes do parent-led food challenges, which is basically between a food challenge and doing it yourself at home. It's where you come in and do it yourself, but you do it during our clinic time, so we're there if you need any help. But the doctor judges whether that's needed or not. So that's basically the steps of a food challenge. An allergy clinic appointment. And normally the best thing about an allergy clinic appointment, sorry, I realised I got a pen on my tooth. The best thing about an allergy clinic appointment is that you get the results on the same day. And it's really good because you come out quite clear, or you should do. And if you don't, make sure you ask all the questions before you leave, because you do come out quite clear. You've had all the testing done, and you've had an explanation from the doctor, and it's normally a really good appointment. It can stretch from sometimes 1 to 2 hours, depending on how busy the clinic is. And then if you are given an EpiPen, you will also get EpiPen training on the day, normally by the doctor or the nurse consultant, and they'll go through the action plan with you as well. And again, if they don't, then you ask for that. Do not leave with an EpiPen without being shown how to use it. Once you know how to use it, it's relatively simple, but it's like anything. If you don't know, you don't know. And also, if you're going to be booked in for food challenges, that's normally can be done on the day as well, or at least your details are left so that we can, the service can get hold of you and book the food challenges. So that's what to expect on your first allergy doctor appointment. And actually the subsequent ones, if you're going to go back every 6 months to a year or 2 years, then as long as you've got a food allergy, you should always have a follow-up appointment. They'll all be very similar to that. So I hope this is helpful. So don't forget, you can message us anytime. Just come through the website. There's a contact form at the bottom of every page at thenestcpr.com. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.